What are some more logistics on how to use a Highline that's already set up? This is the 7th video of a 7-part series that corresponds to our Highlining 101 book on slackline.com. Now, there were so many logistics that we had to break it into 2 videos because it was over an hour long. These were a bunch of small videos and we squished them into 7 videos and put in the description and down in the timeline into chapters. So you can skip to what you want to see or watch it in its entirety. This course is designed to help you learn how to use a Highline that's already rigged. And if you already know how to Highline, please scan through the material so you know that you like it, and then please share it with new people so we all kind of raise the standard on the knowledge that everyone has when they go out and walk these wiggle bridges. It's pretty hard for people who have never done it before to just know hours of content and a whole textbook worth of knowledge in order to stay safe. Please put in the comments below if we need to add anything or adjust anything. I can't exactly edit an already uploaded video, but we can make an 8th video that includes everybody's comments and thoughts and add another one to this series after everybody's watched them for a while. If you're new, we hope this makes your journey a lot easier than ours was. And yes, this is my new lab and studio. In these videos, you will see our old studio and our old house and stuff because we kind of filmed this over a while ago and a lot of people helped. This was a major, massive project and we're finally putting it on the main channel, which I'm very excited about. So if you're new, please enjoy it and let us know what you think.
How do you climb your leash? Well, I'm gonna show you my way of doing it on this line that's about 7 feet high or about 2.5 meters tall. You don't wanna be much higher than this if you're gonna practice how to climb a leash in a park, and you don't wanna walk on a slack line this high in a park. But this is something you can practice in the park, and I highly recommend it. So, the first thing is, assuming you didn't fall and on the bounce back up, pull yourself up and grab the line. That's a whole different method we'll cover later. If you're at the bottom of your leash, there's no more bounce, and you gotta get up there, and you can't pull yourself up unless you're just super strong. What you do is you basically gotta flip yourself backwards, which you will not fall out of your harness. Basically, you flip yourself backwards, throw your shin, your foot, your leg, or whatever on here, grab a butt and go up. For me, I like to go upside down. I'm not gonna fall out of my harness in this situation. I put my foot as close as I can right here. I grab above it, and I'll put my other leg on top of that. And it's nice to be able to grab the knot, which I can do with this ring, but there's some rings that you can't if they have different knots, like a noose knot. Then I pull myself up enough to grab it, which I'm using the leverage from my foot right here. Grab, step, hook, hook. And from this point, you can mount back up onto the line, which we'll cover in another video. But you don't want to come down in the park uncontrolled. You want to make sure you statically go up and statically come down if you have a line this high that you're practicing on.
This is how I climb the leash. I use my first foot to gain momentum and get high enough to grab the line. And I use my second foot to push the leash away from me and get higher so that I can get my leg over the line. When you come back down, make sure you don't just drop. Hold on to the leash and come down slowly.
Love it. And I'm going to show you how to climb the leash. Once you've fallen, you lean back, you put your leg through the leash, and you sit on the leash with your thigh. And then you climb up with your hands. And then I just use my strength to get my heels up. Now, what you want to do is be careful here, because now this is around your leg. So you can either take it out here and then mount, or you could mount first to save energy and take care of that when you're already on top of the line. Now, just be very careful coming down slowly to make sure you don't fall in the park. I'm going to show you how I mount a line. There's a lot of ways to do this. I do it a little bit different than a lot of people.
I like to take the backup. Don't use backups in the park, but we just have this for other examples for our course. I like to hang on to the whole thing right here if it's in my way. Put the bottom of my right foot here, suck up, just like everybody's method is to suck up real close to the line, and everyone has a counterbalance method. Mine is to put my foot straight out, and I don't like throw it out or anything like that, even though that works for people. When I put that foot way out there, I can turn my body over. But if I don't do that, I can't get on top without it. And you see people that are new doing this, and it's kind of funny. So stick your foot out, it just throws you on top, and then you can sit up. And then with a hand behind you and a hand in front of you, you can scoot, move, sit, start, and do everything you need to after that.
I'm going to show you how to mount once you're underneath the line. So I bring my left heel up to the line, make sure I'm really long, have my left hand above my right, and then I bring my right foot up and place it flat on the line. Once my body's even with the line, I kick my legs out and use it as a counter lever to bring me up. And then I'm on my leg.
I follow the same 3 basic steps of pulling the line close, throwing my lever leg over, and then getting on top, but I do it all in one motion, which on dynamic lines I find to be a little bit easier. I do it as follows.
One of the ways to get up on the line is a gymnast pullover. The aim of what I'm going to be doing is I use my upper body, I pull my core up, and then I'm going to shoot my legs towards the sky. Once they pass the line and my hips are level with the line, I'm going to flip my legs back this way, and it's going to be one rotation, and I'm going to end up in a mantle, and then I have to swing my leg over. This is what it looks like. So hips level with the line, and then I just teeter over, and now I'm in a mantle, and then you're on the line.
I'm going to show you my way of mounting the line. I use my leg to get my core as close to the line as possible, and I throw my arm over to give me a little bit more momentum to get my hips closer to the line, and I use my left leg to swing me over in one motion. And then I lay on my stomach while I sit up.
Alright, I'm going to show you a couple ways to mount the line. These are going to be a lot easier if you're in the beginning stages of learning how to highline. This method, you're going to focus on being as static as possible. There's not a lot of pushing motion that you carry through the whole thing. So first, you hook your leg on, your back leg, and you slide it up, and then this leg comes over, and then you've joined the other leg, and that should give you enough counterbalance to just come right up. But the important thing is to join the other leg. If you don't join the other leg, you get stuck right here and you can't get over. But as soon as you bring the other leg out, I'm not even pushing with my hands, you just come right up. This method is more dynamic, but if you're having trouble getting onto the line, this will definitely whip you up there. Start, heel on the line, you're gonna slide it down, you're gonna bring this leg over, and what you're gonna do is you're going to hold this line to your chest as you spin this leg around the other side, and that's going to give you momentum to get on top of the line like this.
Hi, I'm going to show you how I learned to mount with a broken wrist. You get your hook with your one leg and your arm gripped. You get your counterweight up in the air and you pull up with one hand as you drop that counterweight down and around. And you pivot around this point on your hip. So reverse it and speed. And it's about timing that pull-up with dropping of the leg.
How do you manage your leash when you sit start? Do not use a leash on a slack line in the park. This is just a lot easier to film, demonstrating this
on a slack line in the park. What I do is when I'm sitting on a line is I like to have it in front of me because I start with my foot behind me. And I like to have the leash on the side of the leg that I'm gonna lift up when I sit start. Let me show you. So I put my foot behind me, the ring goes right by my foot, so I lift this leg up because I can manage this process pretty well. I'm pretty comfortable with it, so I don't get my foot stuck in that loop. But my first step's always the hardest, and there's no loop here. This right here is actually quite easy for me because the loop's on this side of the slack line. Now, if you find that you like, make sure you come down very carefully from this when you don't do this in the park. Now, if I do put the leash on this side, it depends on what is most difficult to you. For me, sit starting is not hard, but my first step is. So when I stand up, I don't want to deal with this leash right here. Now, I open up my foot wide enough that it's not a problem. It's not like something that I spend a lot of time focusing on. But if I'm sitting there and I'm just procrastinating, I'll go like this and throw it on that side of the Highline before I sit start. If you want the leash behind you when you sit start, what you do is you put it right up against you, you grab the leash from behind, you put your hand on the slack line and you push up. And that's how you get the ring behind you. I'm gonna show you how I sit start. There's multiple ways to do this. We're gonna have multiple people show you how to do this. So make sure your feet are not on the ground. And so what happens is it's easier for me, since I'm not flexible, to lean forward and put my foot behind me, push up, and now I'm sitting on my heel. Now, a lot of people do this same thing, but they'll start here and suck their foot up and sit on their heel. So technically this is called the chongo mount. Now this can stress the knee right here and cause pain if you do it long term. Sitting in this while I talk does stress my knee out, but I'm usually rarely in it long enough for it to be a problem. So you have all four limbs working. Right now I use my left hand, which is not my dominant hand, right up against my foot. And I'm steering it like this. I actually have a lot of control. This obviously is a balance thing, but my foot being below the line lowers my center of gravity. I go up slowly, put my foot on the line controlled. And the thing is, people try to rush this part. Get comfortable doing this in the park because you're gonna be freaked out on a high line and you don't want to be like, ugh. You'll lean forward, you'll fall, and that was sloppy. So, start here, I go slowly, get comfortable being in this position. I'm doing a lot with my left hand right now and also with my right hand. And now my weight's not just on my heel, it's between both feet. So standing up is not a problem. And then I take my first step.
I'm going to show you how I start. I take my back foot, I place it in front of me, and I scoot up to it, or I bring it towards me. Once that is done, I use both hands to push myself and support my weight to get my body over my ankle, my heel. And it's like I'm sitting on my heel, but I'm putting a lot of weight into my forearm and I'm activating this leg so that I'm not just sitting on this joint. This start can be really bad for your joint if you don't do it properly. My leg I'm sitting on is square, it's perpendicular to the line, it's going out that way. Once I feel steady here, everything's activated, I slowly bring my other foot up to the line and then I roll forward so that both of my feet are weighted evenly, and then I stand.
I'm going to show you another way to sit start. Once you get your foot on the line and your heel as close to you as possible, you can use the momentum of your leg and your arms to create a bounce, and you'll stand at the top of the bounce, or at the peak of the bounce. So as the line is about to go back down, you'll stand.
This is how I start. I put my left hand palm down on the line, place my right foot perpendicular to the line. I try and keep my hand and foot really close together. Once I'm on those two, I bring my left foot ahead of my left hand. Once the foot is on the line, I release my hand and slowly start to stand up.
So I'm going to show you how I sit back down after I successfully walk the Highline, but I don't want to walk off the anchor because onto the cliff, because that can be risky. And you don't want to be whipping and falling 2 meters away from an edge. So once you've sent the line, once you get all the way across, what I do is I kind of reverse my sit start. Some people put their foot a lot further back, but I try to get my left hand down as quickly as possible. Once my left hand is down, my left leg can go down there. My left leg makes my center of gravity lower. And then when I'm practicing this in the park, my feet do not touch the ground, which is really important to practice this when you're in the park, even though it can be tempting, really tempting right now to do this, or to switch, or be touching the ground. But the ground isn't there when you highline, and you want to practice simulating everything, including scooting, standing, and coming back down as if the ground wasn't there.
To go from standing to sitting, I cock my back leg out that way, not in line. My front foot is in line, and I center my body in between the two legs, and I bend both knees slowly. And then I scoot back on my back leg, put my hand down, bring my leg down, and keep rolling back. So during that whole process, my body position starts right in between both of my legs, and it slowly rolls over the back one and then behind it to finish the sit.
I'm going to show you how to go from standing to sitting on the line. You slowly lower yourself, and then you drop your knee onto the line, or your shin onto the line behind you, and then you roll backwards so that you're sitting on the line with your 2 feet in front of you. This allows you to sit or put your foot on and go to your start position.
I'm going to show you how I sit down. I place my right foot perpendicular on the line, slowly come down so my left hand is on the line, and I'm back down.
How do you use your personal anchor when you're near a cliff? You want to make sure that you don't get too close to the cliff edge before you tie in to be safe. Sometimes you can clip the furthest thing away from the cliff in order to stay safe, and I can do that in this situation because my personal anchor is long enough. Every anchor is different, and you have to just think about what situation you have. Now this anchor does have a built-in personal anchor as part of the anchor. It's built in as the tail. And this is not common, but it's sure nice to have when you rig. And we're gonna teach you that kind of stuff in the next course. But you could clip directly into this, and if that specific Highline or all Highlines at a festival have this, you will not need a PAS. But since most do not have this, I have my own. Another option for your personal anchor is to clip it to the anchor. You can do the legs, or, which would be amazing, is the master point, which is the end of the anchor, which is where all the force comes together, all the strength comes together. If you can clip that, that is fantastic. And that's super, super safe. But if you can't, it's okay to clip one of the legs. Now you don't want to clip both legs, because if something were to break or slip or whatever, it comes right out. It's just common practice in the climbing world to clip in between the two legs going down here, so you're embedded into the anchor. Now, if you want to get near the cliff edge, which is what our green tree pro here represents, you could sit next to the cliff edge, get a little bit safer, and clip something else if you need to get further out. Sometimes these anchors are pretty far back, and you have the option of clipping to the line. Now you want to be careful when you clip to the line, because falling on carabiners on slack lines is dangerous, which is why we use rings. But if you do this, you want to clip the back up and the main line and not just one or the other. Now, something that might seem safe but is impractical is to clip something way back there. So after you're done tying in, I can't reach my personal anchor, and you basically gotta untie, scoot out, transfer your thing, retie in. It's really inefficient and not forethinking. Make sure that your personal anchor is clipped to something that's within reach. Now that I'm done highlining and untied, my personal anchor is right here. Stand up, step away from the edge, but don't trip on your personal anchor. Step back, unclip, and then you're done. Where do you put your personal anchor system, your PAS, when you're done tying in? After you tie in and you're ready to highline, it's not ideal to be highlining with this, but if it's just this small, simple, tiny one here, what I do is I go around my back. I don't like to clip it to my belay loop because it's kind of here and in the way. I have my hangover here and stuff, so I don't like to have that right there. In fact, let's do a real life situation there because this is gonna be on me. What I do is I go right past it. On these ones, you just lift up, and I clip my gear loop on this side, tension it just a little bit to be at the same tension as my waist belt. And it doesn't seem to be in my way. I can tuck that in there, and it doesn't prohibit me from highlining any better. So I have seen people go underneath the legs. You can go underneath and clip it to a rear gear loop and like tie it off, but then I always have the slack line, usually sitting underneath this thigh, and I try to put the Highline, the webbing, on the actual leg loop itself, so it's not pushing up against my skin. I don't recommend putting it under your leg, but I have seen people do that. Now, if you have this big old Bertha, which is really actually a nice one, you're going to want to probably take it off. So I don't think I'm going to want to highline with this. This one I'd put on my belay loop depending on what I'm doing. You don't want to do that all the time. Your belay loop could wear out. However, this is pretty big. There's a lot of rope here. So let's see how this works. I'm already kind of covering up my hangover, but I would have to tighten those up to be the same weight. I could probably tuck these. That's not the end of the world, but that's sure a lot of shit on me. So what I could do, if depending on the situation you're in, if you're like Lost Aerospire where you have to rappel to get on that 55-footer, you're probably not going to want to take these off. You're going to want to leave them pretty handy because when you get to the other side, you're going to need them. But if you're walking somewhere and then walking back, and you know you're coming back to an easy to work at Highline anchor, then you can just leave this handy near the cliff edge. Maybe depending how you tie in, just leave it clipped to something. And then before you untie from your leash, you will install it back on your harness and be tied in before you untie from your leash. Now I do try to tie my BFKs now, my anchor master points, with enough tail off of my tailless BFKs in order to have a permanent personal anchor at my Highlines. And that way it's built into the anchor and it's not attached to me, and I can be tied in if I'm near the cliff edge, but that's pretty rare. And until people start doing that on a more regular basis, you're gonna have to have a system like this and wrap it around yourself in order to not have it hanging down here like this. So what do you look at when you're highlining? I like to look down and to the right because I'm right side dominant when I'm highlining anything under, let's say 100 meters, because it's easy for me to see like the cliff. And I don't like to look at the anchor. Sometimes the wiggles of a loose line, I'm trying to correct what I'm looking at instead of what I'm actually feeling underneath of me. And so I try not to look at it, but of course I'm not going to look completely off to the side. So look a little bit down and to the right. Looking up seems to throw off my balance. And that's if you can see the other side. If you're on anything bigger, sometimes it's easier to look at the next tape or 2 or 3 tapes in front of you and actually just look at the line that is basically moving at the frequency that you're feeling.
so you can make decent corrections and you have something to look at. Some people don't look at anything. They just kind of like glaze over and not cross their eyes, but don't focus on anything and just focus on the feeling underneath of them. Sometimes people just look around. If you're not nervous, you could just look around. I've actually really enjoyed looking straight down at my feet, not past my feet, but just at my feet. And it's actually given me quite a bit of comfort to see that I'm on something solid. So it depends on how big of an area, the view and exposure. If exposure bothers you, you can look at like the cliff over here instead of like the exposure out that way until you get more comfortable. So experiment with what you look at and what feels the most comfortable to you when you go highlining, because there's no right or wrong way to focus on things. Highlining is one of the safest and most reliable ways of achieving flow state. That perfect feeling between you're in control but not overly focused, just like that peak moment most sports try to achieve, you kind of get like instantly when you highline. However, it doesn't always come, especially the more you do it and the less scared you are. I don't always achieve flow state right when I stand up. Sometimes for early in the morning or something, you kind of have to get on the line for a minute, get your jitters out, and then get off for a minute. Calm back down, and when you go back out, it's on. It feels really, really good sometimes and doesn't feel good other times. So find out what your patterns are and when you feel flow state the most. Sometimes it really affects when I've eaten last and kind of how my sugar level feels. If I'm really depleted, I feel more flow state. If I just ate, sometimes it's hard to stand up. So find out what works for you. And one of the mantras that I do to help me focus is to say left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, because there's no like beginning and end. It's kind of like living in the moment the best that I could rather than counting. Some people count steps up or count steps down, where I found that wasn't helping me live in the moment, but it does help others. But when I say left foot, I feel my foot and I'm like, that's solid. My left foot is bomber. Now I can shift my weight to that and lift my right foot up. And then I say right foot, right when I feel it, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. And I focus just on basically the one thing that's keeping me stable and on the line. And that has kind of been my mantra for like, 6 years now. Another thing that works for people is to focus on smiling, because if you smile, it's pretty hard to be stressed out. So think about puppies, think about whatever. Find out what mantra works best for you and experiment with different things until you find something that feels like it's not forced and very natural to help you focus and achieve flow state when you highline.
Hey, thanks for watching, but please do not be an idiot and go highlining your first time without going with someone who knows what they're doing. This video series is just to prepare you and help you have the gear and make it so you can practice before you get that special opportunity to finally go highlining. If you already highline, please share this with somebody you might take out so they can go through the whole video series so they're fully prepared to get on that line so you don't have to rescue them. It's better for the YouTube algorithm ecosystem for me to release these once a week. So we're going to do that every Saturday until they are all out. So you don't have to wait until we do that. We're going to put the unlisted video links in the description below. So you can just blow through all this, look at the textbook, and move on with your life. This is a gift economy style of education. I believe it's more important to have this information free and available to everyone than for me to get 20 bucks. But it's not free to make. So if you enjoyed the entire course and you read the textbook and you look at the Bulletin Bible and watch all of our episodes, spot us 20 bucks. It really helps. 100% goes back in the channel, as you can see on our donation page on slackline.com. We're a very open book. And make sure you keep your eye out for the Highlining 102 course. We are going to completely finish this and the Bulletin Bible 2021 version before we finish the Highlining Anchor course. But that's going to be, it's a lot more exciting to make that than this series. So we're pretty excited about what's coming. So make sure you hit that like button and we'll see you at the next video. Cheers.